So first we grab a cube and scale it up to the size of a room, and then we can add some windows with the Archimesh add-on that should be installed within Blender, so you don't have to download anything, you can just enable it there. I'm adding a panel window and just placing it somewhere. The next thing we're going to do is just try out some lighting, adding in an HDRI so we get a feel for what we can do with the room. Next I started modeling a bed and a mattress and just a couple cubes and extrude some things. For the mattress I decided to go into sculpt mode and make it a little bit smoother, and then adding some wrinkles with the cloth brush. Next I wanted to add a backboard like I saw on my reference images, and then for the shelves I just grabbed a cube and did some extrusions, just a really easy cabinet. Couple blocks, 2 blocks on the right side, and to make it a little bit uneven I just added 2 more on the left side so we have some differences in height. Next I modeled a plant pot and placed a plant in there with the botanic library, just keeping everything really simple. The next thing we needed to do was make pillows, so that's just really easy. Just grab a cube and subdivide that, add in a cloth and add some pressure to it, and it should inflate like a balloon, and if you do it correctly you can get a pillow. Later, when revisiting this a day later, I added some cloth wrinkles to it with the sculpting mode, the same way I did with the mattress, but that will be in the end of the video when I come back the next day. Next I added a blanket with a cloth modifier as well, and the same thing here, I added some cloth wrinkles with the sculpt mode the next day. I tried making as much as I could myself so I could learn some modeling and just make some things that I think are cool. So the next thing I added was a carpet, just a plane that I extruded up and then add a bevel. You can see here I made something to scatter on there for the bits on the carpet. Inset some faces on the carpet so the particle system wouldn't go out of the bounds of the carpet. As you can see right here, it looks really cool. This is a really cool way of making carpets. So yeah, keep that in mind. Next time you want a carpet in your scene. It is kind of performance heavy, but if you just disable the particle system in the viewport, you wouldn't have any problems. It was really smooth. If I didn't have that, when I enabled it, it was kind of laggy. Next thing, I added some decorations, which I had already pre-modeled. Just some assets of mine. If you want these birds, you can leave a comment and I might just post them on my Gumroad if enough people want them. I of course needed some books, so went over to textures.com and got some graphic design books, adding a cactus in a plant pot, just adding some decorations. For the curtains I did something special. I just modeled a beam, and then for the curtains itself I grabbed a curve and made it a little bit wavy so I could extrude the curve in the curve geometry, and then I had a perfect curtain. And then for adding some randomness and some realism to it, I just added some loop cuts and gave it a cloth modifier, added some wind with some noise, and it resulted in some beautiful curtains, if I do say so myself. Now we're just going to add some materials from my material pack, which you can download on my Gumroad. Adding some wood textures to the floor and to the bed, and I really like how these turned out. I did play with the colors a little bit of the wood, but you can do that too if you get the textures on my Gumroad. Then of course adding the outside, you cannot forget that. Adding some grass in the foreground with some rocks and then some trees in the background. This is just temporary. Eventually I'm going to make a whole house of this. So I'm making tutorials for every single room in a house. And then it was just a lot of playing with the lighting and with the camera setup until I got the perfect image. And we'll see that in a little bit. Something I struggled a lot with was the lighting of the scene. I wanted to add a lot of lights, but as you can see, it created a weird effect with the lights for some reason. So I figured it out in the end, but it just took me a long time. Then day 2, I just started looking at the render of the day before and just looking at some things I could improve, and that's what I did in day 2. So the first thing I noticed was it was kind of a flat image. It didn't really pop out that much, so I wanted to add a little bit of contrast in the next render. Changing the contrast to medium-high contrast. I found that medium-high contrast is just the best contrast of all of them. High contrast is too much, and medium contrast just like none. So medium-high contrast is a little bit more than default. Next was the lights under the bed. I really wanted to remove those. They didn't look good. I don't know why I added those. I thought it would look cool, but it really doesn't. So I removed them. The blanket looked too perfect, not wrinkly enough. As you can see, I just subdivided the sheets again, and just with the wrinkle brush added some wrinkles, and it looked so much better. This tiny bit of detail made I think the most amount of difference. Just the camera angle just sucked. Just had to change them. Changing the camera angle and setting up a second camera, so I have 2 shots. The curtains still looked too see-through and too fake, so I had to fix that. So I fixed the curtains right here, just making them a little bit less transparent. And yeah, that was it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed my render. If you want, you can support me on my Gumroad. Please leave a comment with what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.